imagine I'm wearing my ring? This mine or this yours? Oh man, I didn't want this one. Yeah, let's trade it. Aha! So you want to go first or want me to go first? Okay, show your ring to them so they can see. Stand a little bit so we can see. Alright, everybody see your ring? So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you Colonel Brooklyn Petrie. We address her as Colonel. So if I'm talking to her in a sentence, I say, Colonel Petrie, how are you, ma'am? And then her title is also Colonel. Right? So I say, hey, where's the Colonel at? That's what I'm talking about. Everybody got that? Yes.
Would you say, but if like a male cadet wore that rank, would you call it sir? Would you call him sir? Yes.
That's a great idea. I mean, a great point. Great point. It's a question point. Yes. So if I say I'm walking by her and I salute her, I'll say, good morning, ma'am, because she is a female colonel. You're absolutely right. Great point. Any other points? Okay, here's my ring. So can I use first name down?
Alright. Cadet Master Sergeant Allen. I don't know.
My last name. Brooklyn. I know your name and your mom's name and your dad's name and your sister's name.
Yeah. I don't know. Alright. Cadet Master Sergeant Alan Haynes.
Okay, how do you address him?
Sergeant.
So how would you greet me in the morning?
Hi, Sergeant AJ.
This rank, weirdo. So, somebody help her out.
It would be hello, Sergeant. Good morning, Sergeant.
Good morning, sir. Absolutely. All right, give us a round of applause. Next two. Right there. Might as well do that line.
This is Cadet Jesse Cruz. He's a sergeant first class. I address him as sergeant.
This is Lieutenant Colonel. His name is Alejandro Herrera. I call him Colonel.
And then if you were saluting him and walking by him in the morning, what would you say?
Sir.
How would you say it?
Good morning, sir.
All right.
And I was went by him. I would say good morning, sergeant.
All right. One more applause. Who's next?
Alright. His rank is a staff sergeant. This would be Staff Sergeant Daniel Garcia. I would address him as sergeant. So like in the morning, when I walk past him, I'd be like, good morning, sergeant, or good morning, sir.
Sir.
No.
Oh, no, it's just, yeah, it's just sir.
This is First Lieutenant Joshua Mendoza. I saw him in the morning. I say, good morning, sir.
How do you address him?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
And that's the greeting. Okay, but how would you address him with his title?
First Lieutenant Mendoza.
That's his rank. We're going to talk about this in a few minutes.
Alright.
All right, go ahead, slow it up. I know you know all this stuff. There, Alejandro. Yes, sir.
Oh, it would have been Lieutenant.
for them a round of applause. Alright, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to really talk to you about how this rank stuff works. I know it seems complicated and technical, but it's really, really easy. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is the difference between the rank structures. There are two rank structures. You have enlisted and you have officers. The enlisted are all of those that are lower in rank than every one of the officers, even the lowest ranking officers. So even this guy, the Sergeant Major of the Army, has to salute this brand new, fresh out of college lieutenant. And this brand new, right out of flight school or whatever, supply school, whatever he came out of, has to salute that person.
What are they called?
Huh?
Butter bars.
That's why they call them butter bars. Because they look like butter. They're yellow. I don't know. And because they're very fresh. They're new. And we'll talk about that. Now, when we look at these, you probably hear someone say the acronym NCO, which means non-commissioned officer. The non-commissioned officers start at the corporals, the sergeants, and all the sergeants. Alright? They're non-commissioned officers. Now what that means is this. All our officers, especially when you get around here, right, they have to be in for a little while, but they get what we call a congressional commission. Right? They're commissioned as officers of the United States of America. In other words, when they get out of college or they get out of the West Point, the academy, or any of the military academies, they become an officer. Usually they start off as lieutenants, and then some, I think maybe they call them ensigns or something like that. So they get a certificate signed by Congress. Usually it's the Chief of Staff of the Army, the Sergeant Major of the Army, and a member of Congress signs a certificate commissioning them as an officer. Now what that means is that person becomes an official officer of the state, of the whole United States. They can represent the President of the United States and the entire country as an officer of the state when they're on foreign land. That is why it's important that they're commissioned by Congress as a representative. Alright? And their training is a lot different than the training of these up here. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Alright, so that's the biggest difference between the two. Here's the next difference. These are entry level. When you get a person that's an E1, E2, E3, we're talking about the very bottom, low, privates, the lowest rank in the whole structure. Alright? So the rank, when we're talking rank, is the title itself, the words themselves, and the icons or the symbols that symbolize that rank. That's what we mean by the rank. And it is the actual title that that soldier holds. There's another thing we call is the grade. The grade is the pay grade. That is the grade at which they get paid. All of the Department of Defense have pay grades. They have different rank structures, but they have the same pay grade. All of us get paid the same no matter what our branch is, based on our pay grade. Right? So an E1 gets paid less than an E2, E3, and so just like as teachers. As a teacher 1, that means a teacher's first year of teaching, they get paid lower than a teacher with 2 years. And a teacher with 3 years, it goes up, T3, T4. But in the military, we start off for enlisted E pay grades. So this guy gets paid a lot of money. I'm just going to tell you that right now. And I'm going to show you what he gets paid in a few minutes. Same with the warrant officers. A warrant officer, we don't have those structures in JROTC, but they are specialists. They either fly airplanes, they're either engineering specialists, supply specialists, intelligence specialists. They have a lot more extensive training than a regular enlisted person. These people used to be, most of them used to be around here. And they decided to go to warrant officer school. So they're a higher level than these guys. And they have a specialty. Alright? There are some cases where a warrant officer, what we used to call from high school to flight school, if you score high enough on your ASVAB, those that join the military, you get an opportunity to do certain things as far as your specialty, especially if you have a little bit of college. So those of you that are taking dual credit college and AP courses, it counts when it comes to the military, if you decide to join the military. Right? So we see a few of those exceptions to the cases. They graduate basic training and they select them because of their scores to be a warrant officer. They send them straight to warrant officer school and then from warrant officer school to their specialty school. Now, lieutenants are usually made by going to a military academy like West Point or like Texas A&M, or you go to a senior ROTC program in a college, like UTEP has a senior program, NMSU has a senior program. You do 4 years of college in the ROTC program. When you graduate, you're a lieutenant, and you get paid a lieutenant. Now, there is a difference between this pay, this pay, this pay, and this pay. And those are the entry level for those rank systems. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Alright, so just like it looks, the more stripes, the higher the rank. The more stuff, the higher the rank. Now the difference is, just like with your lieutenants, they're reversed. You have 1 dot, that means the second lieutenant. 2 dots, which means the first lieutenant. I'm going to give you a visual on that one. All right, you two, come forward and do awesome. And we one more volunteer. Let's say, for now, let's say that Alejandro is a captain. He is the company commander. Right? He has 3 people that are part of his personal staff. Right? One of them is the executive officer. Right? The executive officer is his #1 officer. Right? And then he has another person, step back just a little bit, which is, let's say he is the platoon leader, right, of the 1st platoon. And then he has another guy back here, which is known as his 1st sergeant. Right? So, just think of it with those numbers. This guy is the 1st sergeant, which used to be called the top sergeant way back in the days. Right? So he's the 1st. This is 1st, the highest enlisted, his #1 enlisted NCO in his company. Now, his #1 officer is a 1st lieutenant. Remember, with you all, you have 2 pips for your 1st lieutenant. And you have 1 pip for the 2nd lieutenant. The 2nd lieutenant has 1 pip, and he is a platoon sergeant. A platoon leader. Right? Does that make sense? That's why it's reversed like that. 2 is 1, and 1 is 2. If you remember that, you'll remember them. All right, let's go on to a round of applause. Thank you, sir. Now, with that same mentality, the 2nd is the 1st, and the 1st is the 2nd. With that same mentality, let's look at the ranks. In the Olympics, the gold medalist is usually the #1 guy. And the silver medalist is the #2 guy. It's reversed though. The gold medalist is the 2nd guy, the 2nd lieutenant. And the silver medalist is the 1st lieutenant. He's the #1 officer. Is that making sense? All right. So, then of course it goes on with your captain.